Ever wonder why we relate and connect to stories around us?
Welcome to the DNA Podcast, a show where we discuss books, movies, and entertainment that help us understand who we really are.
I'm Dakota.
And I'm Annabella.
Let's dive into our DNA.
Where is my notes on
Come on.
Can I tell you that Asleep by the Smiths was my, anthem after I watched this movie in middle school?
Such a hipster.
I know. I was like, the Smiths are, so good.
You're like, it's, really underground shit. This is, no one knows about this.
I hate myself.
I couldn't even say that with, a straight face.
I know.
Oh, Lord.
So this is officially episode 9.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Holy shiitake mushrooms.
We're flying through them.
We are. We got to do something special for number 10, maybe. Maybe we'll do something a little cute.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what that would be, but I'm going to think about it. I'm going to let you know.
Yeah. You let us know.
Oh.
Our
audience.
Listeners.
You let us know. Episode 10. What do you want to see?
What should we do? Do you want to know more about me and Dakota's life?
Probably
as
not.
If we haven't. I was like, as if you don't already know all of my issues.
Right. Well, same. It's fine. Especially with that last episode. We talked
Dear
a lot
God.
about personal relationships and all that stuff. We're open books now. Sorry.
At this rate, shit.
Yeah. Hey, that is what it is. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of the DNA Podcast. Mm-hmm. Can't believe we're on episode 9. That's insane. But we're here. And we're talking about a movie. And this was one of the choices way back when, early days, as if we're not still in the early days of the podcast, but earlier days, we had a poll and asked you guys to pick, what movie. And the one that won was Eternal Sunshine. But the other one was Perks of Being a Wallflower. And we thought, you know what? Let's do it. Why not?
Let's fucking do it. The Perks of Being a Wallflower is a 2012 American coming-of-age drama film written and directed by Steven Chbosky, based on his own 1999 novel of the same name. Logan Lerman stars as a teenager named Charlie who writes to an unnamed friend, and these epistles chronicle his trials, tribulations, and triumphs as he goes through his freshman year of high school.
The film depicts his struggles with his, unbeknownst to him, post-traumatic stress disorder, as he goes through his journey in high school making new friends, portrayed by Emma Watson and Ezra Miller. The film's ensemble cast also includes Mae Whitman, Kate Walsh, Dylan McDermott, Joan Cusack, and Paul Rudd in supporting roles.
Heck yeah.
So, first impressions.
I remember starting the film off, and I was like, oh my God, this cast is jacked.
It is. There's so many people. Up until the very end, I'm like, I know every person in this freaking movie. It's insane.
Literally. And it was actually really funny because, the girl, she's not listed, I don't think, in this whole thing, but the girl who's, a main character in Good Girls, one of the moms. Have you ever watched the show Good Girls on Netflix?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, so good. Please watch it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she plays Charlie's first girlfriend in this, and it's, oh my God, it was so funny to see her.
I know her. Yeah, I've seen her in something else too. I can't even think of what it is, but
all of them. I was watching it and I was like, oh my God.
I know, the dad is the dad in American Horror Story.
Oh my, I couldn't see him any other way.
Yeah, I was like, bruh.
Yeah.
He's trying to be funny. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, sit down.
Sit down. Shut up. No, so I've seen this movie, but honestly, I don't know when I saw it. So it's been a minute since I've seen it, but I've only seen it once up until this most recent one.
Yep. I saw it in high school for the first time, and I watched it multiple times in high school because I was a typical emo kid, and I was like, this is so relative to me.
I do feel like this is one of those movies that becomes people's identities for a certain period of time. That's just how it is. It's just one of those movies. It's a good one. It's good.
Yes.
I mean, it's got some good moments in it, but yeah, definitely it's one of those that you're just like, we get it, Uwe.
Yes. And so essentially the whole movie starts off, Charlie's basically writing to this unknown friend, and he kind of writes his life's passages throughout high school to this unknown person. And I have a couple theories that we'll talk about at the end, who I think he's actually writing to. But moral of the story is, Charlie's brand new, and you can tell he's been through some shit because he drops these subtle hints of being like, well, I don't want to be judged in high school because I don't want them to know that I was the kid who spent the summer in the hospital. But you never find out why. He just drops these random little hints, and you're just sitting there like, huh, all right, so homeboy's been through some shit, but all right, we'll keep watching. Basically, you see like stage is open, first day of school. The fucking seniors are abusive.
I don't know if it's just been that long since I've been in high school, or I also went to public school, so like I would expect that to happen, but I just don't remember people acting like that at all.
No,
and it's always
like that was straight up violent.
Yeah, literally, and it's always sensationalized in movies, without a doubt. But I just like sometimes I watch movies that are set in high school, and I'm like, did people actually act like that? And I just didn't have a realistic high school experience. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought. Well, because I went to a Catholic school, and so like if you like raised your voice in the hallway, they'd be like, "Detention!" Like there was no shit to be had. So
and
like,
then there's the opposite. The only thing that I can say is I accidentally walked through a fight, not knowing it was a fight ensuing.
Oh,
yeah, it was fine. I just was trying to get to class. I was like, "What is everybody doing?" I was like, "What is it?"
Like, hi, sorry, excuse me, I'm late for biology. Thanks. Oh, you're bleeding. Okay, thank you.
No, literally, it was just about to start, but it was a crowd of people, and I was like, "Why is everybody in the way?" Like, I'm just trying to get to class, and so I'm just like shoving through the crowd, and then like I get into the classroom, and the teacher was like, "God, this is cool." Like she's like freaking out. I was like, what is going on? Like I'm like, we have a test today, I better like get in the zone. And so that was my experience with public school.
You so much. That is the biggest representation of you as a person I have ever heard.
I'm just determined to get done when I need to fucking get done, okay?
Oh my
I don't
God.
care what's going on. Yeah, and it was just a fight. It was fine.
Dakota's sitting there in class. It's empty. All the kids are still in the hallway. It's 20 minutes in, and she's like, so is that a hard no for the test today?
I'm like, should I just like go to the bathroom and come back? Like, what do I do?
Oh my God.
So anyway, that's like, I don't know, that's like the only high school like relevant experience I have that I could maybe tie to this movie. But yeah, they were very aggressive in high school. Very
aggressive, yeah. And so essentially it's like first day, Charlie's like seeing all his like old friends from middle school, and he's like, oh, maybe I can sit with Susan. Ooh, never mind, she just gave me a dirty look. Oh, maybe. And like everyone's just like ignoring each other because everyone wants to start fresh in high school, which is, I feel like, a common theme in life, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's the statement, you're coming of age, you're jumping to that new building, older kids, like, drugs, sex, and alcohol start ensuing soon.
Yeah. And literally. So your Catholic school had a high school, so it was what grades?
It was 9th through 12th.
Yeah, so that was mine. Mine was 9th through 12th. What was, how would you describe freshman year Annabella?
Oh my God. I'm not trying to, my past is so bad in high school / middle school. Those were probably the worst years of my life.
Oh my God.
Literally, when I tell you I was fucking Charlie, I was literally Charlie. Like,
Aww.
I was Charlie. I had such a bad situation in middle school. I was bullied. Oh, like, it was so bad.
Oh my
and then
God.
I got to high school, and I was just like, I can be my fucking self, and I'm gonna be my fucking self. And so I was already in, like, the scene kid phase.
Love it.
But showing up to an all Catholic school, like everyone was prim and proper. Most kids were preppy, wearing Aeropostale, Hollis, or whatever. And so I walked up in there being like my little emo self, and everyone was like, who the fuck is this girl?
Yeah.
And luckily, I was very lucky that I had a group of friends still carry over with me into high school from middle school. So I was really fortunate with that.
Yeah.
But it was this sense of like, same thing that Charlie was like, he was like, I gotta find my spot, I gotta find my clique, I gotta find my friends. And I was really lucky that high school was kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel for me. So I super resonated with Charlie because I was just like, although it wasn't like abusive with the seniors, it was at least just like, okay, I can turn the page finally in high school. So
yeah. I mean, freshman year was weird because I was in a very serious relationship. It was like the first actual relationship I ever had. So there was that aspect that I was already entering high school with. And I had my friends. And I kind of resonated with Charlie in the sense of I always went and like did the things, but I never actively participated in a lot of stuff. I was just there.
Yeah.
And just like observing a lot. And then I didn't really figure that out until like sophomore, junior year, where I actually became involved and like found my voice. And in general, I think that's just how I am. But it takes me a little bit of time to like warm up to a situation. But honestly, like I was pretty quiet. Like I was in band. I I know, I was a little band nerd. I was in drumline though, so like drumline was cool.
Yes, you bad bee.
Except in freshman year I played cymbals, so like not really that cool. But anyways.
You were the kids I used to throw in the trash can. No, I'm just kidding.
You threw kids in the trash can?
Just one. So, plot twist. He like wanted it. It was like a funny thing. But it was like I went from being bullied in middle school to then like in high school. I didn't know this until like after. I used like my image and like whatever like as such an aggressive form of self-expression that I was like, fuck this. Like I got to like high school and I was like, bleh. And
which is so funny because I just don't know you that way at all.
Yeah, I know. And people told me like, come senior year, they were like, you're kind of like a bully. I was like, don't you dare. So I did tone it back eventually, but
I will say I don't think you and I would have. Maybe so here's the thing. I was kind of like friendly. I was going to say I didn't know if you and I would be friends or even really like have similar circles in high school. But I'm wondering if maybe we would because I was friendly with almost everybody. I didn't, but I had like my core group of friends and they kind of bled over into other circles. So who knows? Maybe we would have. But if you were a bully, I probably would have steered clear of you.
Well,
I was a baby and I still am. So
I think people classified me as a bully point in times because I was not afraid to be loud and obnoxious. But like I was weird because I would get straight A's. I would be really good with all my teachers. Like all my teachers loved me. Like there was like I was in National Honor Society. I was the VP of the club. Like weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
So different dynamics.
Yes, I was just like a conglomeration of all the people. Like I played sports, so I was always involved with all of the people in the sports teams. I was super involved in art. Like I was just a weird.
Yeah.
Like
I was a wild card.
Yeah, and I think people hated that because they were like, "No,
you don't fit into a box." Yeah.
Right. Fucking pick a side, and I was like, I can't.
Well, I also kind of feel pertaining to this movie. That's kind of. So, like, as we're saying, like, Charlie is a freshman in high school, and he's trying to find himself, and he eventually does coincide with this group of people that they call themselves, like, the misfits, because they kind of are. Like,
yeah.
You can try to, like, classify them as, like, the weird, like the weird crowd, but, like, weird is different for everybody, because, like, for me, the weird crowd was, like, people who were like kind of really artsy, but also like it was like I was also in that circle. So like I don't know, maybe I was weird. Yeah. I don't know. I still am. But so eventually he does find that group of, you know, misfits that you can't really put into a box where they have really good taste in music, but they also do performances in theater and they do Rocky, and not just any theater performance, Rocky Horror Picture Show, like, which is
seriously,
whew, honey, which is a crazy thing. So like I think in terms if I were Charlie, who desperately so wants to be involved with something, but also desperately does not want to be seen. And the group of people that like pick him up are like, this is who we are. Like, we want to be seen for being weird. It's like total opposite. And he ends up kind of blending in. It's an interesting, you know, contrast.
Well, I think it's like a really cool dynamic because he's essentially told with these people, like, yeah, dude, let your freak flag fly. Like,
yeah, do your thing.
Yeah, whereas he was so desperately trying to find a box to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah, and he just didn't know where to start. I will say, so like that's the only part that I really resonated with Charlie, where like I said, he just wants to be a part of something, but like wasn't really participating in a lot of stuff. I will say, this is not like a to toot my own horn thing, but anytime, and it's in movies or whatever, or even in real life, like anytime that I see somebody sitting by themselves, eating, it breaks my heart to the point where I can literally cry. So anytime I was in high school and I saw somebody sitting by themselves, I would literally go over there and sit with them. Because I was
me too.
Because I was, and it wasn't like I'm such a good person, blah, blah, blah. Because like it genuinely, like I know that feeling of it's hard to feel alone. It's the worst to feel alone in a room full of people.
Yes.
And
I could not agree more
just
with
knowing that you're seen, that somebody, even if it was like, not that I ever like really became friends with these people, but if there was like one time I sat with this one girl and like it ended up becoming like a routine thing that we would just have lunch, like, and then me and my other friend would join. So like it ended up just being the thing, but I just like, I couldn't imagine just like having, what is that, a half hour to yourself, everything. And maybe if she wanted to be alone, I guess she could have told me to fuck off, but you know, she didn't, and she just seemed like lonely and by herself, and I felt bad, and I was like, you know what, why not? What do I have to lose? So I don't know, seeing Charlie by himself all the time, I was like, just let me at him. I'll sit with him.
Yeah. And I think I did the exact same thing, and I would always invite, like, I was never catty with, like, birthdays or whatever. I would invite the whole fucking class. I didn't play that game. And there would, like, literally be times where, like, a parent or somebody would come up to me and be like, thank you for inviting him to your birthday party. I was like, what? And I would get, like, offended and be like, who the fuck didn't invite him last time? Like, Yeah. So there were a lot of points in times where, like, my school was a Catholic school, like I said before, very painfully political and cliquey. If you were not snooty tooty, A++, part of liturgy committee, part of the pro-life group, part of this, part of that, you were just like you were like dirty or whatever. And so my group of friends, unfortunately, was known as like the bad group of kids. And it's really funny because all of us look back now, we pretty much all still have contact with each other.
Yeah. And
all of those other kids
don't.
And they like went down most of them went down like a bad path, like post high school and college. Whereas like our like core group of friends, like they like, people will run into us like when we're like out and at a bar now as adults, and they're like, oh my God, you still talk to them? I'm like, oh yeah. Like I just saw them it's such a funny thing because it's just like, we didn't judge each other as friends. Like we were actually just genuinely like this group of people that Charlie found. And it was really cool because I think like now later in life, like it's played a massive role. Like we weren't fake to each other. We weren't trying to be somebody. We weren't just trying to impress each other or get good grades or whatever, or have a friendships based on like stature in your class and nothing. We were just doing our thing. Yeah. And we unfortunately were the group of kids that experimented with drugs and alcohol and doing the things, and it's just everybody else looked down on us like we were these bad kids, and I was just like, you don't even know the half of it.
Yeah, you don't actually really even know us. Well, that's like kind of the thing that gets strung along the entire movie is Patrick, one of the guys that befriends Charlie. He's kind of like this androgynous kind of guy who's very so much like, this is who I am, I'm proud to be who I am, very outspoken, which is great. But I do think that's a mask for a lot of other things. That a lot of the times people portray themselves to be loud and outgoing because deep inside they're like the complete opposite, or they feel the complete opposite. But one of the things is like the very first day they're in like a shop class and Charlie notices him, and he's Patrick is making fun of the teacher or whatever, and the teacher walks in and he's like, okay, like sit down, whatever, blah. And I forget what he says, but he's like, my name's Patrick, you can either call me that or nothing. And then the teacher goes, okay, nothing, go sit over there. First of all, fire that teacher. Second of all, wow. Anyway, so it becomes this like running joke throughout the whole film. And I use joke very loosely, but that everybody sees him in the hallway and they go, oh, hey, nothing, hey, nothing, hey, nothing. And it's just that like shitty high school mentality and atmosphere where it's like one thing, and he handles it relatively well. I think that's also a mask. Yeah. It's also a mask. Yeah. He jokes about it, but obviously words hurt. But that's just like the high school atmosphere too. Of just, I think, teachers and their impressions of students low key have a very high impact, and they don't even know it. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Right? You and I talk all the time about how teachers we've had have impacted us that were good.
Right. But I'm saying like how a teacher perceives a student can either push that student up or fuck that student up
absolutely.
To his peers.
Yeah. And I do think in general, I wrote this down, but I didn't really have like a lot to back it up, but I kind of want to talk about it. There is, throughout this movie, there's like a weird dynamic between kids versus adults.
Yeah.
There's a very obvious plot line that we'll get to at some point. But like, as you were saying that, it reminded me, it's like, that was like a weird thing for a teacher to do. And it's also like a lot of these adults are just not present, you know, like a lot of the stuff that they're just not around. Like it's a very weird, I don't know, maybe that's just like the world of the story and it is what it is. But
yeah, maybe.
I was just curious, like if you had any thoughts on that, because I was like, maybe it's saying something, maybe it's just like not, and I'm looking too much into it.
No, I think it plays, I think it plays a little bit of a role that when you're in your teenage years, you're in this bubble and mentality that your blinders are so far set on just your friends, your peers around you. The adults are these like weird outsiders looking in.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel as though that's kind of how all the adults are portrayed in the movie, because they don't have any really meaningful parts except for the one teacher,
Yes.
the English teacher for Charlie.
Mr. Anderson.
Who, the reason why he has a larger role is because he looks at Charlie as an equal instead of looking at Charlie and his students
as a kid or whatever.
Right. And so that's why I think the role of the dynamic of adults and everybody throughout this film is different, because there's this differentiation. Like, we're the insiders, like we're the young kids, like we're going through the rat race of high school, and man, we're going through it. And these are the adults being like, you kids, like looking
you don't
down.
know anything.
Yeah. Versus that one teacher being like, yeah, like let's like fucking talk about English books and read things. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's always the English teachers in my personal experience, because my teachers that have always had a big impact on me were always in like the creative, like English field. So
no, I agree. And I think just maybe in like some type of, because no, I lied. Mine was an English teacher as well.
It's always it's always English teachers.
Yeah.
They just know how to get you. I just think too, like that, like Mr. Anderson in this movie made Charlie feel seen, even though Charlie didn't really want to be seen, but he did it in such a beautiful way, because, in the very like first aid class, like Charlie clearly knows all the answers that he's asking because he's writing them down on his notepad, and Mr. Anderson's like walking around and he sees that he knows the answer, and he doesn't call him out on it, like, oh, Charlie, I see you have it written down on your paper. He just like acknowledges it, and then once everybody's gone, he's like, how come you didn't raise your hand? And it's such a beautiful balance, though, that I think just in general, high school is some of the best, some of the worst moments of your entire life. Mm-hmm. And I actually wouldn't even say the best, because there's way more to life than high school. I take that back. But there's some of the most difficult things and some of the most memorable things that you'll go throughout high school. And a lot of that, like you said, has to do with like the teachers and their perception of you, because they are like essentially the rule and gatekeepers of your world for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Yeah, and I just sure. Also, Paul Rudd does not age. He looks exactly the same.
Like,
what's
sign
his
me
secret?
For Hollywood? They all fucking sell their souls to the devil. I'm convinced. That's fine.
Well, not Paul Rudd, because he's an angel. But anyway.
No, yeah. I'm just saying, for them to they drank from that fountain of youth. I know they did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But no, the one character, like, she is such a representation of unwarranted nastiness throughout high school, is that one girl that sits next to him in that English class where she's like,
what?
Nice trapper keeper. I wanted to fucking crack her teeth in. I was like, bitch, sit the fuck down.
No, she literally, I was like, she pulled out that word so fast. Like day one, she was like, mm-hmm. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh my God, who are you?
I was, yeah, exactly. Who are you? I was like, sit down. You have braces. You're ugly. Like, I started getting like defensive, and I'm like an adult. Like, I just started getting nasty thoughts in my head.
It's Logan Lerman, okay? There's something about that man that you just want to hold and protect him.
You just want to hold him. Yes. Comfort him. No, 100%. Well, I do have to ask, was your high school worse or better than your middle school?
I don't know. That's a good question. So I would have to think about it. They were kind of even, if I'm being honest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think my middle school was worse than my high school. That's fine.
I guess I would have to say the same if I had to pick, but not by much. Like,
yeah.
And not to say like, oh, both were terrible or both were really amazing, because it wasn't. They just kind of like, I had relatively the same class since kindergarten.
Yeah, no, same.
So, like, we all, for the most part, I mean, a lot of people moved, other people moved away, moved in. So, like, there was lots of people that filed in and out, but, like, a bunch of my classmates, we knew each other since kindergarten. So, like, unfortunately, it was like, oh, like, your fate is sealed, blah, 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 like, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why, for me, like, in high school, I never really felt like I could, like, really, reinvent myself. I'm like, these people have known me since kindergarten. Like, if I start, like, doing something weird, they're going to be like, what are you doing?
Right.
So I don't know.
I agree with you.
What you think? How was middle school worse for you? Well, obviously you said you were bullied and whatever.
Yes, and so middle school was the primary. We were all together since like kindergarten, and then eighth grade is where the split happens, because you either have the choice to then go to the public high school or the Catholic high school. That's like the sister high school of what our elementary was. It wasn't our school didn't go K through 12. It went K through 8th, and then you had to choose where you would go to high school. So there was a split. Some of us did go to the public school, and then the luckily some of my core group of friends went to the Catholic school and we just continued on. So I think it was slightly better just because I got somewhat of an opportunity to do the reinventing of the wheel. But,
yeah. I mean, that sounds like a perfect opportunity to do that. And it's cool that your friends, I mean, hopefully didn't like judge you for it.
Nah, it was funny. You know, I hopped on that emo train real quick in like 6th grade. Everyone was like, what are you doing? Oh, and then by freshman year, everyone was with me. I was like,
you're a trendsetter. Look at you.
I'm just the OG. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding.
I do want to touch on something that I noticed a lot. I mean, there's like very obvious examples of it throughout the movie, and then there's not so obvious that are very subtle. There's this like overarching theme of time and what we do with it.
Yes.
And every once in a while, I remember like when I was in middle school and we got to like tour the high school. It was like the summer before we were going to be in high school, and you like everybody joins up and they go like, look at, oh, this is gonna be your locker or whatever, and everybody, like all the old teachers were like, these are gonna be the best years of your life. And I was always like, what? You're telling
so weird,
me,
yeah,
like you're telling me that from age, what is it, 14, 15 until I'm 18, that's gonna be the best years of my entire life?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was like a way of, you know, them being like, because probably some kids were like anxious and nervous, and rightfully so. It's a big step in your life. But in general, I do feel like in high school, there is this pressure of time and how you spend it and who you spend it with. And what does that determine for your future? And so like there's the obvious of like in woodshop, they're making clocks. Like that's the time. But you know, in general, like how Charlie chooses to spend his time. And there's a lot of like conversations about, you know, I feel like we're running out of time, or I feel like we met at the wrong time kind of a thing. Like it's just constantly brought up. So it's funny how like, I don't know if you feel this way, but in high school, I felt like, especially towards like junior and senior year, that's like when you have to make some huge major decisions for the rest of your life. And it just feels like there's not enough time, you know?
Well, I think you're so right, and I didn't pick up on that. So hats off to you, little Miss Film Major you, because I was just sitting there bawling my eyes out the whole time that I didn't really pick up on anything else. No, but I think you're so right, and I agree 100%. Now looking back at the movie, there is a major theme of time all across the whole board, and I think it's interesting to see how like that older group of kids is almost like a reflection of time for Charlie. Like he gets an inside look at what these next 4 years can hold in this friend group, and I think he also gets a very lucky look into post life because he got to befriend this group of random seniors who kind of took him under his wing and all of a sudden just showed him the ropes like so easily. But then he also got to understand that like there is this life outside, because when he's with Sam and like she's like, you don't understand, like there's a whole other world out there, like we've just kind of put ourselves in this box this whole time. So I think it's really cool because while there's this push and pull of time and being able to spend the time correctly, and there's like the pressure like you said, which there absolutely is, when you get to high school you're like, I need to do all the fucking things in the next 4 years before
otherwise
I like
my
leave.
life is over.
Right. They're definitely 100%. So let's go fucking drive through a tunnel. Let me stand on the back of it and just put my arms out like Jesus. Like, you know?
Well, that's why I think that it's interesting when Charlie says, you know, I feel infinite. And that feeling of, in general, I think when you're so young, you just feel indestructible. Like you just feel like nothing bad can happen to you. And I don't mean that in like an ominous way or anything, but it's true. Like you have certain moments, and we've definitely talked about this a lot, also in the car, of just having those moments where it feels like time doesn't exist. And you feel like you're living in like almost like a live memory. You know, I don't know how to really describe it, but it's like it doesn't, time's neither here nor there.
Well, so one of the things, and I've said this before on the podcast, one of my old coworkers said that the reason why time goes by so fast as an adult is because you're not creating new memories. So you're just living through a daily routine of the rat race. Whereas when you're in high school, you're creating connections with people. You're creating memories. You're doing things you might have never thought you'd ever do before. And so it's this experience where you feel this infinite amount of energy and like self-expression and all the things. And it's just so cool because it's like, there's definitely a point in time in your life where you actually might not feel that again. You might still be able to make new experiences, but those organic first time experiences, that first time you snuck out the house and went and like Charlie dropped an acid tab, like,
Dude.
you know, just like wild things that you're going to look back and be like, oh my God, I was so crazy. I was so dumb. But that's probably never going to happen again.
No.
And that's what makes it that moment of infinity, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just like hearing you say that, not that this touches on it at all, but it reminded me of, I think that's why some people also enjoy having kids so much, because you get to essentially see life experience happen right in front of you, and you get to see somebody experience their first unfolding right in front of you, which is a really unique experience.
Yes, 100%. Like my one sister, I definitely know she's living vicariously through her one kid, and I'm just like, it's okay, you do you.
It's kind of hard not to, because like even with the nephew that I have with Alec, it's so cool to see what he's interested in and then what he's not interested in, and then how he talks about certain things, and and when he experiences new things, getting to hear about it. It's like, it's cool. It's just fun because it's like things that you like. He went on like roller coasters, not like the crazy one. He's only like 4. He went like roller coasters like twice, and it's just like seeing those videos and seeing him, it's just like, oh my gosh, what a cool experience. Like I don't remember the first time I went on a roller coaster, but like he will, like, you know what I mean? So it's just cool. It's cool to see people live life for the first time, you know, and have those first time experiences.
Yes. And I think to tie in this friend group, like I think essentially Charlie makes this group of friends, right, totally by accident. And slowly but surely, Charlie is starting to like peel back the layers of, you know, what's happened to him in his life. And, you know, the previous summer, why did he spend the time in the hospital? Like, we don't ever really find that out why. And he drops a hint that, like, his old best friend shot himself. So it's like, okay, maybe it was because of that. And slowly but surely, the characters of Patrick and Sam start peeling back the layers of Charlie and start seeing him for who he really is and accepting that. And which is something I thought was really interesting, because it's like, you exist in a world full of 8 million people or whatever. A person could walk past you in the street and have a completely different perception of you, and that's their reality of you. And in high school, it's so difficult to maintain an identity of yourself because you're trying to impress your teachers, you're trying to get good grades, you're trying to please your parents, but you're trying to make friends, you're trying to be cool, you're trying not to be a loser, you don't want to be bullied. Like, there's so many of these facets where it's like, are you really being yourself? And I think it's interesting because as they've taken Charlie under their wing, essentially, they're allowing him to just open up. And so little by little, there's like, I don't even want to say they're Freudian slips, but Charlie's just finally comfortable enough in his life where he's just like truly being himself for a minute.
Yeah.
And they keep making these weird references. His parents are like, well, let us know if it gets bad again. If it gets bad again. Oh, is it getting bad again? Like, what's getting bad? Because we're seeing this version of Charlie that is so purely happy and accepted and loved by a group of friends and like all the positive things. And we can't really pinpoint why something bad has happened to him. Like, what was it?
Yeah.
Or who did it? And all these like different little hints that are being dropped to him. And you see him take a pill and you're like, okay, antidepressants, like what are they? And it's just this really different dynamic that I think the book did, because I read the book as well, and the movie does, that they portray both sides of it, where you might be having this internal struggle and mental health crises and all the things, but as long as you have some type of outlet, which for him was this friend group, feeling that love and acceptance and finally being able to let your guard down for the first time, it can make it all better.
Yeah, and I think that is directly shown when, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but later down the road, he ends up temporarily losing that friend group because he makes a questionable decision. And, you know, he ends up not seeing them for 2 weeks. And then things start getting really bad again because he doesn't have that outlet. And I do think that this movie does, in a really eloquent way, show how post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, how it is. Because in a way, like, your brain is literally trying to protect itself from not remembering memories. So it will just act like it didn't happen. And sometimes it slips through the cracks and you get glimpses of it. And sometimes it's not in the way that it actually happened. It's like a certain little, like, oh, bloop, here's a little blip. And it's like, oh, that seemed like a good memory. I'm remembering my aunt in Christmas time. Okay. Oh, I'm remembering this reminded me of my aunt. I remember her crying at the dinner table. That was sad. That reminded me of that or whatever. And until you really allow it to come through, you can't really actually deal with it. So he's just kind of masking it and protecting himself so it doesn't come out. And so, like I said, when he doesn't have that friend group, that's when things start to come out. And we actually really kind of start to have something doesn't seem right here.
Right. There's like a little bit more of a clearer image painted for us as viewers of his life. And she's totally right. Our human minds, I think, they're so powerful, and we can set up such a strong defense mechanism where the narrative we tell ourselves can literally become the truth that we believe. And I think that that's exactly what has happened for Charlie. We know for a fact that his aunt has passed. We know for a fact that they had a really special connection for some reason, like how I have an awesome connection with my one niece. Like, she just looks up to me in a way that, none of my other nieces and nephews look up to me. And we just never find that missing piece. And it's not until later down the line he starts dabbling with, like, being in a relationship, being physically intimate with a female, that things start unfolding even more. However, throughout the process of him going through all these, trials and tribulations and experimenting with life, he, like Dakota said, unfortunately kind of fucks up. And so it's the Sadie Hawkins dance, and a girl in the friend group asks him, because the person he's really got his eyes on is Sam. And I don't know if we've made that clear yet, but Sam and Patrick are stepbrother sister. They're kind of like the main two in this friend group that really take Charlie under his wing. And Charlie's head over heels for Sam. Sam's this like gorgeous, like Emma Watson, obviously. So essentially, he's fallen for her, but has never expressed it. But he drops these subtle hints about how she's so incredible or how she should be loved, like whatever. But she's dating this trash bag who is in college. Whoa. And essentially, another girl asks out Charlie to the Sadie Hawkins dance. Charlie says, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go. They go back to her parents' house after the Sadie Hawkins dance. They kiss, which he was totally fine with. And she's like, I just can't believe you're my boyfriend now. And he's like, the fuck?
I actually wrote there, super clingy with 4 exclamation points.
Literally the definition of clingy and the psycho girlfriend you wish you never had.
Oh my God. But yeah, and then shortly after that, they've been dating, and he's like, oh my God, I can't take this. Like, I don't know how I got sucked into this, but I don't know how to, like, I don't know what to do. And his parents are like, well, then just break up with her. He's like, I can do that.
Your first relationship, you're like, wait, this is allowed to end?
You're like, wait,
oh,
I
thank
have
God.
power in this situation? Oh my God. But he doesn't. And they end up having a truth or dare night or something with his friend group. And Patrick asks Charlie and says, oh, truth or dare? And he says dare. And he dares Charlie to kiss the prettiest girl in the room, specifying it's probably going to be his girlfriend. Plot twist, no, he kisses Sam. And then I wrote, cringe, and then again. And that unfortunately causes a huge, and of course it does, but it causes a disturbance in the friend group. And he has to have time away. And I felt so bad for him. And I feel too, because like we have been talking about like those freshman year memories when you're really, or you're just in high school in general, like you're really trying to find yourself, and you just make mistakes, and sometimes there's such a high price to pay for such an accidental thing,
And I've been there. Yes. Yeah. I've done something like so stupid and catty, and then like all my friends didn't talk to me for like a week, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And it feels like a lifetime, and especially when you have a character like Charlie who is dealing with PTSD and probably a couple other things, but he's feeling alone and doesn't have the one thing that he had that was getting him through all of that is suddenly gone. It's like ripping the rug right out from underneath him.
Yes. But in times now, he's kind of like trying to find his own way in these like couple weeks that he's not their friend. Essentially, there's a subplot here where the guy Patrick, as we've identified, he's like super open, super okay with being gay, and he's out the closet, and he's totally fine with that. But come to realize that he's actually having a secret relationship with the head of the football team, who is, big macho dude who's like, you don't say anything. Like that they've come to this whole friend group knows about it, but they've kind of kept this like secrecy that
about their relationship. Yeah, they can't.
Yes, like nobody's allowed to disclose the fact that them two are secretly like in love with each other. And it's really unfortunate because essentially what happens is the father of the football player walks in on Patrick and the football player. I don't know. What's his name?
I don't even know his
David?
name. Sorry.
I think it's Dave.
I don't know.
Anyway, basically hooking up. The parents were supposed to be gone. Well, plot twist, they came home early, which in every movie they do. And essentially the football player's father beats his son senseless, and Patrick just kind of walks away. And, a fight ensues the next day in school because Patrick's like being bullied by the football player's friends, and he's like done. He's like, no, fucking say something, right? It's okay for me to go give you head in the fucking closet, but you won't stick up for me. Like you could tell he's like hurt in a different way finally.
Yeah.
And essentially a fight ensues. Patrick's getting his shit rocked by 4 footballers, and
his so-called boy toy is not doing shit.
No, his boy toy ain't doing shit. And who comes to the rescue? Literally Charlie, who they just exiled for being a quote-unquote shitty friend.
Chance of redemption.
Charlie blacks out and like murders the 4 football players.
When you go into Ulta?
Literally, yes, it's fine. But then you like cut to, and it's Charlie in the principal's office or whatever. And then like Sam is there, and she's like, do you remember what happened? He's like, no, can you please tell me? And she's like, well, you saved Patrick. And he was like, how's everybody else? However, my one quote that literally is probably my favorite quote, aside from like the famous ones in the movie,
right,
is after he's done beating those boys senseless, he pauses, he comes to, because he like blacked out while beating them senseless, and he literally goes, touch my friends again and I'll blind you. In that moment, I was like, it's funny because in those days, I would have gone to war for one of my best friends as well.
Yeah.
I would have literally ran over a human with a car and felt no remorse.
Okay. Holy shit. Okay.
No, my one best friend in high school, she was like so badly bullied by a bunch of seniors, and like to this day I have such raging feelings that like I think if I saw him as an adult, I'd just like accidentally hit him in a curb and be like oops, and just like drive away.
Well, that's like that weird whole like high school hierarchy, right? It's not really talked about, but it's like this small group of people are at the top, and they like get to say and do whatever they want, and it's like if you're lower and you try to do that, and it's like no, can't do that.
Yes,
sorry.
You're so right.
I think too, something I would like to talk about is overall too, there is this complex that's talked about, and it's shown a lot about wanting to save people but yet not being able to save yourself.
Yeah.
And
yes,
I think in that instance, Patrick has always been on the outside of somebody who's very confident and sure of himself, and has been keeping this relationship on the side. And then I think when when push comes to shove, no pun intended, he wants acceptance, and he wants to, save this character that clearly isn't ready to be out of the closet, and he wants him to be like him. And we find later on, like post that, when they, after the fight, Patrick and Charlie go on rides, and like it always starts off really positive, and then eventually like, Patrick gets kind of dark. And I think that's because he's never really like focused on himself, and he's always been worried about 100%. Trying to save the person. Like, you need to be able to come out to your family. Like, we need to stop hiding, or like whatever. Not that he was really actively saying that, but I'm sure it's what he wanted. And then in general, there's so many other like characters like that. I mean, Charlie, first of all, always getting involved. I mean, I love him to death, but he's always trying to like, secretly have Sam fall in love with him. And it's like, he's not able to really work on himself or focus or save himself, but he wants to try to save her.
Well, I think it comes back to a theme I kind of picked up, where it's like other people can see things in you that you can never see in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're always sitting there looking at other people and seeing this beauty in them. And you're wondering, like, why are you letting people treat you like shit? Why are you like, and you're trying to save them. You're trying to lift them up and whatever. But then you don't ever look in the mirror and say, like, no, I'm amazing as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think because also you're the one that you go to bed with every single night. You're the one who has the thoughts in your head that you can control or not control. So,
Very true.
A person only sees you for what you show them, And
yes,
I don't know. I'm going to say it. This also goes into how we love each other. I can't believe I'm the one bringing it up and not you.
Yeah, you fucking are. I've taught you well, young Padawan.
You've taught me to feel. Thank you. But that goes into the quote that, Mr. Anderson says that it's like the quote of the entire movie, which is we accept the love we think we deserve.
Yes.
We don't have an accurate depiction of who we are. And so we continuously put ourselves in shitty situations or bad relationships because we think that that's what we're worthy of or that's just what is expected. And it sometimes takes a person who sees you for either who you truly are or at your best to allow you to be like, okay, wait, maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe I shouldn't be putting myself in a toxic relationship, or maybe I shouldn't be doing these bad habits,
Right. I couldn't agree with that more. I think that the hardest pill to swallow, in addition to just the quote itself, is that we accept the love we think we deserve. The hardest pill to swallow on the end of it is that you have to do some self-reflection and realize, like, what love have you accepted in your entire life, and how is that essentially holding up the mirror to yourself? I cried hardcore during this movie just because I was just like, oh my God. I was like, so it's me? I'm the asshole? Like,
oh my God.
No. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there was a moment of like having to swallow the pill and be like, yeah, the reason why I've never allowed this positivity to flow into my life or whatever, it's because I don't think I deserve it.
Yeah.
And that's very much so the cycle and the rut that Charlie has fallen into. And I think it's because of the little hints that have been dropped about his Aunt Helen and the experiences that he's had with her. And so, like, essentially throughout the film, more and more has unveiled. And we see this one scene of, Aunt Helen kissing young Charlie. He's probably like 5 years old, kissing young Charlie goodbye and saying, like, I'll be right back. Like, Santa's on his way. It's Christmas Eve or something. And she was apparently going to drive and pick up his Christmas present. Well, Aunt Helen doesn't come back. And Aunt Helen dies in a fatal car crash. And you can tell that there's this heaviness that is seen with Charlie definitely feeling some type of guilt, definitely feeling some type of responsibility. So we're like, okay, so maybe that's what the cause of all of his issues are. And like, you see in any aspect of him expressing love or expressing feelings, anytime he starts opening up, it's like boom, boom, flashes happen. Mm-hmm. Boom, boom, Aunt Helen's in his head. And you're just like, why? And I think a big part of the fact that he's never found that friend group, never found that love and connection before, is because he thinks he doesn't deserve it based on the situation that happened with Aunt Helen.
Right.
And I don't think it's until the very end of the movie that things are unraveling. The end of the school year is coming. The friend group got back together because obviously Charlie fucking murdered 3 individuals.
Defended his honor.
Like, literally, they're like, okay, we're not going to ever exile Charlie again or else he'll literally murder her.
He'll blind us.
It's
Thanks.
fine.
Cool.
Yeah. No. Yeah. The kids walk back in blind. What happened, Charlie?
Yeah. Not again. Classic Charlie.
Oh, gosh. But, yeah, so it's the end of the school year now, and they have these, like, last couple moments of celebration because Sam got accepted into Penn State, and Patrick got accepted to wherever, and they're all kind of finding their way, except for Charlie. Charlie's only a freshman. He's got to stay behind.
Makes me so sad.
And he's keeping count. He's got 1,090 days to go, or 95 days to go.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, dude, you need a big-ass calendar for that.
Yeah, hell yeah. But I will say, all things in spite of that, after he does kind of have, like, the breakdown, he ends up going back to I guess it's a mental or ward or something. I'm not quite sure.
Wait, but did you notice why he had the breakdown?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me.
Because of his aunt?
Yes, but why?
Because she was a child molester?
No, but what happened that sparked the situation?
Well, him being intimate with Sam.
Yes.
Yeah, because she was touching him in the same way that reminded him of that. It's
Yes, ma'am.
I think there's a book, it's called The Body Keeps the Score or something like that, but it talks about like your body has like a memory bank. So like things,
Oh, yes.
if you've been exposed, I mean specifically to sexual trauma, but any kind of like physical trauma, certain things can just bring it out. It's super strange how your body has like a memory bank like that. So anyways, yes, he ends up going because him and Sam have a little kiss and it's like great, and then all of a sudden he's just like pulls back and he's like freaked out, and that's when he keeps having these weird flashbacks to his aunt, because his aunt is a POS and was molesting him. So Aunt Helen can go pound sand.
But you know what? I think so. For me, this moment meant a lot more because I don't think he ever would have come to the realization. In my personal opinion, I think Charlie is the type of person that he would have just choked this all down and blocked it all out with his PTSD, taken his medication, and moved through life.
Yeah, had he not.
It's right, because it wasn't until he had a positive sexual relationship where he felt safe and loved and appreciated, because him and Sam, literally in that moment, she was like, why didn't you fucking do this in the beginning? He was like, well, you're with piece of shit Craig. Like, what do you want? Like... So it was this moment of like finally opening up to each other, but it's kind of like too little too late. So they're just enjoying the last couple minutes they have because she's leaving for school the next morning. And so the intimacy starts, like she said, he pulls back, but then he feels safe enough because he knows that this isn't like a violent type of scenario that his brain is used to. He pursues it and then says goodbye in the morning. And like Dakota said, it was an absolute mental relapse for him.
Yeah. And basically where I was just going to say is, he goes to the mental ward or checks into the mental institution, and there's this doctor that's like talking to him, trying to get him to like open up, to like really start the healing process. And she says, we can't choose where we come from, but we can choose where to go from there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a really good thing to keep in mind, and also what I just kind of wanted to like leave us with. But I feel like it's very hard sometimes, especially like when you're in high school, but in general, like if there's cliques involved, like you feel so tied of like, oh, this is just my fate. Like my fate has been written. This is just what I am. And like, I'm never going to have X, Y, and Z. I'm just, I'm just this. This is just who I am. And sometimes you can't control that. Like even in high school, like middle school specifically for me, it was like what you were wearing was, who you were. But like if your family couldn't afford that, then you couldn't be that person. So like you don't have a choice in that, right? But you can decide where you go from there, right? You can decide to continue like being a good person and being a good friend and like work hard for what you want and do well in school. Like, you know what I mean? And I think it's important to keep in mind, because I feel like often we get so wrapped up in things that have happened to us and traumatic things that have hurt us and scarred us. And unfortunately, those things happen, but they don't define you. And I think that's ultimately what kind of comes around at the end of the movie is he ends up working through it. And like, obviously, I guess I didn't realize that the family, like the parents didn't know. So that was, hard to watch. That was really hard to watch. And honestly, that's like that was the part that made me emotional. Just like the concept of thinking about that, being like, oh my God, like our kid was suffering this whole time and because of this, and I didn't know. So, there's that aspect of it. But, he can't change what happened to him. And I assume is probably going to unfortunately remember that for the rest of his life. But he can at least choose what to do now to make it better and to, have a relatively positive healing process from that.
Yes, and I think this is like a really good example of like timing is everything in your life, because I think if this didn't happen for Charlie in the order of events that it did, and granted, I know it's just, a book and a movie, but if events didn't happen like this in his life where he had the support group at that point in time to be able to do this and be able to recall like the truth about his childhood and all this stuff, like I don't think he would have turned out the way he turned out.
No. And that
I think he would have harbored it and it exploded in his 30s in a really negative, traumatic way.
Yeah, and that's just going to the, we've talked about this a little bit. It's more evident in like Little Miss Sunshine, but it takes a village to raise, a kid, right? Like your tribe is really what makes you who you are. And that it definitely includes your friend. Your friends are essentially your chosen family. And that's what they were to him. Yeah.
Bitch, I chose you.
I know. You chokeholded me into a friendship.
Yo, every fucking podcast.
I'm just kidding. No, yes, you are
People
my chosen
probably
family.
think I'm see? And then you're like, I don't really see you in that light, Anna. Are you sure you were a bully? I was just taught at a very young age to be very expressive, even physically. So I was just like, come here, I love you, chokehold.
And we haven't been the same ever since. So
there you go.
The last
Welcome,
thing,
Malik.
The last thing I will say, as a shout out to our little friend Lizzie, and I guess Fife if he's listening. Probably I don't know if he is. I think our tunnel song would be the intro by XX.
Yeah.
Literally when it was playing out, all I heard was dun 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 dun, and I just think of all of our beach trips and the car rides that we've had. I don't know what kind of drugs they put into that song, but there was something about that song that every time, which I actually don't hear that often, but every once in a while when I hear it, I instantly think of you guys, and I just am like transported back to a place where everything was just, I remember in that moment feeling infinite. I remember feeling like everything is exactly how it should be right in this moment. So that's just what
let's ask the fans. Everybody, like, what's your tunnel song? Everybody that, like, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Because I'm curious to know, because there's definitely songs that bring me back to a place in time, and even to this day, you can put that song on the intro, and it's just like
takes me right there. Yep. Love it. All right, overall ratings. What do you think?
Oh dear God, fucking 5 out of 5.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I feel like in the beginning you were like, not. I don't know. I guess
I was emotionally damaged.
I don't know why. Not that I thought you were going to give it like a bad rating. I for some reason I thought you were going to do lower, but okay.
No, a 5 out of 5, and I read the book back in high school.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
I used to be a tried and truer of the Perks of Being a Wallflower, because I felt as though I truly resonated with Charlie, obviously aside from the traumatic event he had with his aunt. Please, I know. I'm not trying to compare. I'm not trying to compare to that. Yeah. But just his like high school experience, and the experiences before, and like trying to find that identity and whatever. And because I had such a shitty fucking middle school, and then like transitioning to high school, when I watched this, it was so applicable to my life. Yeah. So for me, it was weird because I've had a lot of pre-existing connections to this movie, and then watching it again, like I said, I have this ability to fucking transport my brain into any place and time in my life. And it's just like, I open my eyes and it's like, boom, I'm there. I can feel it full bodily all of a sudden again. So it's like I'm actively lucid dreaming, like while I'm awake, but with like my memories. Is that like, you know what I'm saying?
That
like,
sounds like an acid trip, to be honest.
And I don't do drugs. I wish, whatever, it's fine. But yeah, so for me, 5 out of 5, just because I have like a warm place in my heart for this movie. So
love it. I was going to give it you're going to hate me, but I don't care. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Just because, although I think it has a lot of really, really good quotes, I have this like personal irk, like just because of like screenwriting and like when I took classes and stuff, that saying a character's name over and over and over and over again, where it's like,
I mean,
what are you thinking, Charlie? Charlie, what's going on? Charlie, are you okay?
Yes.
Hey, Charlie, how are you, Charlie? Charlie. I was like, holy crap, we get it. His name is Charlie. I'm sorry. That's like such a very nitpicky thing, but I just remember hearing it and I was like, why are we saying his name so many times?
You know why? It's because that's how it's written in the book.
Oh, really? Oh.
They like reference his name just as much, and I think that's probably why. But I also think it's because Emma Watson's fucking American accent was also trash.
That was also why. I love Emma Watson. She is an angel. You could tell she was just starting to work on that American accent because it was a little rough. A little forced.
And I think she mastered the Charlie. She's like, can I just say this one word 10 times?
Charlie.
Just the one. Yeah. She's like, Charlie, are you okay? Yeah, so bad.
I feel like I heard it slip every once in a while where I was like, oh, there it is. There's her accent.
Absolutely. Oh my God, yeah.
But anyways, yes, no, 4.5 out of 5. It's a great movie. It really is. I forgot how good it was. But it was good. I liked it.
Yeah. It brought back a lot of memes for me, not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah. Definitely brought me back to those high school days that I did not want to think about. But you know what? Such is life. C'est la vie, you know?
And it's so funny because, like, there are some people who, like, peak in high school.
Yeah, for sure.
Like literally.
Those are the best years of their lives.
Yeah, and then they, like, you know what it is, though? I feel like those are the people that, like, marry their high school sweetheart, get pregnant right out of
Yeah.
And that's just like, well, your peak was high school because back in the day, I feel like that was kind of normal.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you didn't go to college, you just got a job, you settled down, you got your fam. Like, that was it. You peaked in high school.
Yeah. Well, also, I think that's life was shorter, too. When you go way back, you know what I mean? True. You had to do all that stuff at an earlier age. But now it's like,
very true.
We don't have to.
Yeah, you're so
also,
right.
You can't really afford to now. Like, things are too expensive. You got to go to college, unfortunately, to get a chance of a foot in the door.
Unless you become a TikTok star in your fucking backyard like these random bitches do, but it's fine. I'm not mad.
Maybe we'll do that for episode 10. Become TikTok star. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyways, once again, thanks for always listening, guys. Make sure to rate us and review us on your favorite platform. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google, probably anywhere else you can think of, but we are on it. So please rate us. I know it sounds silly, and most of our friends are the ones who are listening, but it does help.
We appreciate you.
It also, it helps. The more ratings we get, that means more new people can follow us, and then it means more content that we can make, which we like doing.
Yes.
So do it.
Do it.
Just do it.
Do it! Yes, you can! Just do it!
Thanks for tuning in. We hope today's episode makes you feel a little bit more connected to your true self.
Don't forget to follow the DNA Podcast on Instagram so you never miss another episode.
Until next time.